Hi, I'm Nick Lawrence. I work for the Wild Trout Trust and I'm a conservation officer for the South and Southwest. And I'm here to introduce you to a project here on the River Test that we undertook in the town of Overton.
My name is David Oakley. I'm also a conservation officer with the Wild Trout Trust, although I've only just recently joined the team. But my first practical involvement was actually on this very beat.
So I was invited here on an advisory visit, and after the COVID lockdown of 2020, I encountered a myriad of issues, most of which involved the widening of the channel from the heavy footfall of outdoor activity and dogs and lots of people playing outside. The sediment was coming into the river, brought in by humans and dogs, and that had covered the riverbed in sediment. And that's particularly bad for trout that are trying to cut redds in here, and that's going to suffocate those eggs in the nest. And then it's also very bad for plant growth as well. Certain things like ranunculus, which thrive on having clean gravels. So we came up with a solution here that tried to restore the natural riverbed and reduce the sediment coming into the river.
The erosion had also caused the river to widen, and we were left with a very uniform bed without any characteristics really, any flow patterns. The river was overshaded, there was no in-stream weed growth, and there was no sunlight getting to the banks, so the marginal banks again weren't thriving, and it was devoid of trout.
So what happened here was I had to come up with a solution for the river that still allowed public access and still allowed people to enjoy the river, but also attempted to improve the habitat, but also effectively just funnel access to one particular area so that the issues were only in one area and not in a variety of other areas.
We thought Nick was very mindful of the fact that we didn't want to exclude the public, and the solutions he came up with were considered and have worked. So on the back of Nick's report, the landowners were very keen to implement nearly all of your advice. So it was then over to you again to seek the relevant permissions.
We needed to get a felling certificate for the woody material from Forestry England, and then we had to get permission for the structures from the Environment Agency, and we had to get them also cleared through Natural England for the 𝘕𝑆𝑖 of the River Test.
And alongside all of that, we needed to keep the public engaged and aware of what the proposals were, and the landowners, as they have a good involvement with the community, were very helpful in that.
We came up with these dog dips that were formed with gravel to enable less sediment to be brought in off the path, and then in between these areas we put areas of woody material which shift the silt on and capture the silt in the lee of the woody material structures, which has effectively improved the health of the channel but also captured the sediment in areas where we can lock it up and hopefully get some plants growing.
The works which were done to the bank have not only stabilised it, they've actually improved the access in limited areas. You'll see that there's a trunk, a wooden toe, to hold the gravel back to stop that from going further into the stream. But these areas just here were actually receding quite badly through erosion, so we've now halted that. So we're here now lower down on the fishery, still the River Test, but there's no public access along this bit. But Nick's report covered the whole fishery and identified numerous things which could be done to the river and the marginal habitat, which would improve everything really for the trout and other species. The landowners were very keen to implement his ideas, and so again handed it back to Nick to see it through.
So due to the delays in the permitting process, we did find some work to do down here with the local community, and that was just introducing them into how to manage a river and how to install habitat structures to a river, hinging trees and creating brushwood structures.
Quick and simple techniques, but the change has been dramatic. There's already more trout in that stretch than there were before. There's more ranunculus growing in the river because there's more light reaching the riverbed. I know at least 2 of the volunteers have continued with the river fly monitoring initiative, and we now have monthly reports on the state and welfare of the insect population in the river.
So of course, one of the really fundamentally important things about what we're doing is the invertebrates are at not the bottom of the food chain. Obviously they're feeding on algae and things that are and detritus in the river. But obviously they're a source of food for the fish. We do see fish here. We do see trout. We do see a lot of bullhead and the occasional stickleback. So we know there are higher vertebrates in the river. And we'd like to see more of them. I'm sure the fishermen would like to see more of them as well, because those invertebrates are very important to sustain the rest of the life in the river. And then, further down the line, possibly, you might envisage that there could be open days to show what's going on, show what's happened, show how things have improved as the conservation work continues.
In the future of the river, as it is quite lovely, and it is in the entire upper stretch of the test. But as you will have heard from Pete, getting more people to be aware of the area and be aware of what's living in it would be incredible. And just making sure that we're looking after it is what is ideal for the future, really.
So although most of the test is run as a commercial fishery, this part of the upper test here and the areas around it are all run as wild fisheries. And a lot of this type of management and the work we're doing goes into sustaining wild fish populations.
But a lot of the practices we've carried out here would also work on a more commercial fishery, creating habitat and refuge for wild trout. So I think you can mix and match really according to what the river needs.
So if you're involved in management of a fishery, either through ownership or a fishing club, please do get in touch.
It's worth noting that the advice and reports we give in England come free of charge. We have a scheme with the Environment Agency who pay for our time, and we always like to come and see a new river.